Sup? We are gonna go live shortly. Welcome to West Tigers Faithful 29. Just waiting for Jared, waiting for the mood to strike. What a shitty week in West Tigersville. But we will be going live in a minute. Message any questions you have through, and we will do our best to answer them at the end of the potty episode.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yep,
Beauty.
we are already live, so keep your shirt on.
Can do.
Or not. I mean, I don't know how the YouTube algorithm works, but getting your baps out might actually help with engagement.
Check the fit. Do I look like John Mayer from the 2000s?
You do. You do.
I'll take that.
Alrighty. Let's play the music.
Roll it in. Tigers Faithful, episode 29, I believe it is. Thank you for reminding me of such, because I wouldn't have had the foggiest. Jay McCord, how are you, mate?
Well, shit.
Is that a liquid death at 4 p.m?
Yeah, it's just water, isn't it?
Oh, I thought it was an energy drink.
Nah, liquid death's just fancy water that's got like branding that makes you. Anybody would be forgiven for thinking that we just got a liquid death promotion. But
No, we didn't.
no, we didn't. Just free marketing for liquid death.
Indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, I felt like liquid death after 6 p.m. local time on Monday. That was tough to take. We may as well jump straight in. To everybody, I don't have a briefing sheet. There is enough to talk about and everything is fresh in the mind. So we may as well get into it. Mac, I know you've got some thoughts. I do too. But loss against Parramatta, some people were saying in one of the biggest weeks for the club and one of the biggest games for the club in recent history, and quite often as we do in good, in important weeks, we went down. What are your thoughts?
So, I like to make a lot of analogies and stuff. Like it's kind of one of my things. And in the NFL, I'm a 49ers fan, in case not everybody would have worked that out yet. But the 49ers, one of their rivals is the Rams. And the 49ers have this saying that really annoys the Rams, and it's SOSAR, SOSAR. And it stands for same old sorry ass Rams. And it's basically, you just every time the 49ers beat the Rams or the Rams choke in a big game, you just say SOSA. And it pisses them off mightily. In my head, when we lost that game, I just had same old sorry ass Tigers. Just
Sad.
so sad. Same old sorry ass Tigers. And I hope I didn't just create a meme for all of the non-Tigers NRL to use against us, because it's not a very fun one. But my God, that was just so typical of the Tigers.
Look, first 15, 20, Parramatta had a lot of quality ball, a lot of the running. Mitch Moses' 40-20 was inch perfect, similar to the one that we conceded against Ben Hunt a couple of weeks previous. But we fought back into the match, which was something that I was quite proud of. We did really, really well to get it to 10 all at halftime, and you just sort of thought, first 15, hold steady, we'll get our opportunities in good ball. But like Marshall made a point of it. The first few minutes of our second halves, ever since the Warriors game, haven't been up to standard. And quite frankly, it's what blew us away now. We can talk about, potentially false hip drops, potential penalty tries that weren't to be, professional fouls, Taruva hurling Riley Smith into the night sky. But the way that I see it, we did not defend at all. We looked really, really shaky for the first time this year, where Parramatta would double up on their left edge, and instead of running a flat 4, they'd almost run a flat 5. But instead of having, potentially a lock forward and then Dylan Brown, they'd run Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses. And Mitch Moses would play as the second pivot, and we just looked like deers in headlights. And it was really, really tough to take. And look, Mitch Moses, he played brilliantly. Like, that was a 10 out of 10 halfback performance. But some of the defensive efforts that we came up with, Jack Bird to a Vardy try, Brent Naden to a Lungy try. Yeah, it's
Brent
it's
Naden, the
not
Youngie try.
it's not reminiscent of a club or a team that has ambitions and designs on top 8 this year. And I know that some of these guys aren't first choice picks, but disappointing.
Yeah, I think that we could go two ways with this podcast, and we probably should pick one. We could either just analyze a loss, stick to the facts of the game, or we could get into the weeds and turn it into a dialogue about motivation and playing for the coach and the impact of Lachlan Galvin being dropped. And I don't know. I kind of think that we should probably stick to the facts of the game, because there's probably more than enough media sources out there that are framing it in other ways.
Look,
So
I think that we'll probably end up analysing both, even if we sort of weren't planning on doing so. I've got some thoughts around Adam Doueihi playing at halfback, which inherently is, potentially what Lachlan Galvin might have done. So we'll discuss, but let's just talk through the match for the time being.
I think that game was pretty winnable for most of it. It was really similar game to the Brisbane game, like in terms of the pattern of it. Like, I felt like we were in the fight, in the dog fight, and then when they had their moments to capitalise, they kind of went bang, bang, bang. When we had our moments to capitalise, we didn't capitalise fully. As you point out, the key difference there, Mitchell Moses, just like in the Broncos game, it was Reynolds. And I think that to me is one of probably the more pertinent takeaways from this game was the impact that having a truly elite game managing halfback, not just a game managing halfback, but also a creative playmaker game manager halfback. Like, that's kind of what separates like good from great halfbacks, is not only do they have a good ability to get the team around the park and manage the game, and they also can put on and try. That's sort of what separates the likes of Adam Reynolds and Mitchell Moses from some of the more basic halfbacks around the NRL that can do that game manager stuff. And we picked a really interesting week to move Luai back into his natural role as a 6, I think. And he did, I feel like he really did play, like he tried to get back to playing his more natural game, and Adam Doueihi was much more on ball. And I think a lot of pundits expected that it was I don't know, for whatever reason, I heard at least that they thought that Luai would just continue to play the same role and that Dewey would play more of Galvin's role, but it really played out more like what we predicted it would last week, with Dewey kind of on the right, Luai on the left, but Luai playing much more of a ball running role and trying to be a bit more like a live wire, a bit more active, and Dewey doing a bit more of the game management. I think that when it comes down to it, I have to put my hand up and say I underestimated Mitch Moses quite a lot as a player. I think that maybe, being being that he's kind of one of the Tigers' biggest personal enemies, maybe I like to block out how good of a player that guy's become. I said last week I doubt he's a 30-point difference maker, and then he went out and put on 4 try assists and pretty much a match winning play, smashing Luke Lawley in the head, which is 5 tries that he was personally responsible for, which is about 30 points.
Yeah.
I have to take my hat off to Mitch Moses. Oh, look, you could say all you want about the boys were distracted and they were fired up. They were like, I saw a headline that was like Galvin. What does it say? Something like, the Galvin being dropped. The toll that it's taken is obvious. It's like, nah, man. Honestly, when it came down to it, I don't think that the guys. I don't think they played well. I think that they wanted to. They showed up, and
I
then
agree.
they just got flogged by Mitch Moses. It's really all
Yeah.
out.
Well, let's talk about that because on the flip side, and this reminded me of like 2010 NSV Farah. This was like 2000 and 25 Moses v Luai for the 6th jersey. You look at what Moses produced, and quite frankly, it's a 10 in the old rugby league week. But Jerome, I felt, with the game evenly poised at 26-22, the ball, for whatever reason, did not come his way, and he needed to make it clear that he needed the ball in his hands to make things happen around him. Now, there's always going to be questions about whether he's a clutch player because he's had Nathan Cleary next to him and whatever else. I believe fully that he is that guy, that he can do it, and he did it in State of Origin 3, which is a much bigger stage. This is 30,000 people Easter Monday, Bank West. But it was disappointing to me to see that him and Adam Dewey both had 47 touches each. They both exactly had 47. And, just the difference in the touches from Moses to Luai. And, that was... okay, all right, yep, take in the week that was, and... He was 10 out of 10 in that press conference, and I really, really expected him to back up his coach and his club. And I'm not going to say he went missing, but he left me wanting more and, quite frankly, dying wondering because he didn't have his hands on the ball down that left channel with the game in the balance and with momentum at our backs and wind at our sails. And I found that really disappointing.
Is Luai, like at this point in his career, ever going to evolve into the type of halfback that Mitchell Moses is now? Probably not. It's probably past that point. Mitchell Moses did all of his developing into that halfback as a 7. And what I mean by that is Jerome Luai ever going to step up and kick a 40-20 from the 30 on the 4th at a pivotal moment in the game? Is Jerome Luai going to push everybody out of the way and pot a field goal at the 39th minute when we're 10 all? You know what I mean? Like that's what Adam Reynolds would do. That's what Adam Reynolds did do against Brisbane. That's what Mitch Moses did. That's what Adam Reynolds does. Is Jerome Luai ever going to be that halfback? No, he's not.
So therefore, everybody's saying Latu's the guy. And without this turning into a 15-minute long recruitment conversation, can we manufacture Latu Fainu to be the halfback that we need?
You can try for a while. I mean, you can try for a while. You can win without that 7. Let's be honest. You can win without that 7. If you're stacked in a lot of other positions. And the Tigers have a few of those ingredients. We've got a burgeoning good middle. We've got, obviously, the 9 that we need to have to play that role. We've got strong outside backs now, or at least a few. Very good fullback. Um, to play without a good game managing seven, definitely need somebody like a Yo or something like that. And I think that's what people miss about the time that Luai spent playing seven at Penrith last year, is that he had Isaiah Yo playing seven. He wasn't playing seven. Well, he was, but you know what I mean. Like, he had a very unique beast playing 13, taking a lot of the first touches. So what I mean is, you can bide your time and become competitive, and then try to get even over the top by developing somebody like Latu Fainu into that role. Um, but it's a risk, because if he doesn't come off, and you don't manage to actually develop the rest of the squad into competitive without that player. I guess what I mean is that you get a Mitch Moses and you take a team like Parramatta who can't win, and you turn them into a top 8 team, right? So that's like a find one ingredient and the whole game changes kind of player to add to a team. Without that player, you have to build a whole champion team. You have to have Melbourne Storm level players in almost every other position, so that Jerome Hughes, you know, can play seven to his strengths. And to his credit, he has probably defied a little bit of what I'm saying. He's probably, what you want to hope Jerome Luai can kind of, figure out how to do, because, he was naturally a fullback coming through. He was more of a running player. And now he is the sort of person who will smash a 40-20, and he is the sort of person who will push people out of the way and take a field goal. He's become that. So he can do it. It's just really unlikely. And Jerome Hughes was able to do that in a system where he was surrounded by champion players in a whole bunch of other positions that were carrying him, while he was figuring out how to play the subtle parts of the seven, and lean on his strengths largely. So, long story short, you can, but I wouldn't do it. I'd go get a seven. I
You got
would
to
scream.
market.
I'd go to market, yeah, because I think that Latu Fainu, it's probably honestly not doing Latu Fainu a service to actually try to change what he's naturally good at either. Like, if you try to turn Latu Fainu into a seven, it's one thing for Melbourne Storm to take a player like that and say, we want to manufacture you into a seven. That player is making a choice to buy into a system like the Melbourne Storms, where there's success in the walls, and they've achieved that many times before. Asking a young player like that to take a punt on that at our club, you see the outcome when we ask them to. They leave. You can't we're not a club that you can actually honestly put pressure on young players to expect to adapt to fit. It's just not it's not logical for them to want to do it.
Yeah, and maybe it's the best thing that if you identify Latu as the long-term seven, maybe the best thing to do, therefore, is to sign somebody that he can do an apprenticeship under, to show him the subtleties and the ins and outs, and to work on his game, to be his mentor. Is that something that's ideal? Obviously, Jerome had a guy like Cooper Cronk, for many years, and then was sort of jostling for position with a Brodie Croft. Like, is that the way forward?
Well, I think that we definitely need another option that's more of a traditional seven. We don't have anyone at the club who's a traditional seven. I said last year that I think we should have tried to extend Aiden Caesar, even with Luai coming in. My preference would have been to play Aiden Caesar at seven, and Luai at six, and let Galvin develop a bit more slowly. Even though Aiden Caesar himself is maybe not even like, an archetypal seven. He's a bit more of a hybrid model. But yeah, I think that regardless of whether or not we go to market for a premium seven, we need a seven, just so we can at least see what the team looks like with more of a game manager style player running the show.
Luai was brought here to be a halfback. Shane Richardson said midway through last year that, and look, it was an overstatement and quite hyperbolic, but he said that he believed that we had signed the best halfback of the comp at a time when Luai was doing great things. Is it ever, do you do it the other way? And you said that Isaiah Yo, and I'm not saying we're going to sign an Isaiah Yo, but do we find a guy that can control the middle corridor at 13? and then therefore you free up Luai to do a little bit less organisational game managing type stuff, and then you sort of you leave him to sort of take charge of that left corridor, shift to the right when he needs to, and just put the ball in the corner, organise, and do his job that way.
Well, if you wanted to do that, there's a guy who's just decided to go to market, young fella, who's probably the closest thing to Isaiah Yeo that I've seen coming through in a long time. He's a kid by the name of Lachlan Galvin.
Well, maybe that's...
And we have him until the end of 2026.
Then maybe that's what you do. And then you
But-
wait until...
But Reedy, I will want to point out, I think that we signed Jerome Luai to play 7. At first opportunity, it seems like Luai maybe didn't jump at the chance to put the 6 jersey back on, but he certainly didn't shy away from it. Dylan Brown just got signed to play 6 at Newcastle, and he's on a higher contract than Jerome Luai is right now. So I don't think there's anything wrong with like going sunk cost fallacy. We've got a premium 6. He's arguably the best 6 in the NRL. If we just pivot and just say, got a premium 6, and we go to market to get a game manager 7 who can kick a 40-20, has good general kicking, can kick a field goal, and can put on a try with good short kicking into the end goal, then that's perfect. And you know what? We are lucky because this year there are 3 good candidates on the market.
I mean, look, we said it last week, we copped a bit of stick for it. We are after Daly Cherry Evans. They've made a formal offer, a formal approach. They are talking to him. So we will see. To sort of insight Legacy's question, will Latu stay around? Mate, he's played 80 minutes twice in the past 2 years. Like, realistically, as talented as he is, we haven't been able to see him put together consistent performances 80 minutes after 80 minutes after 80 minutes in any grade, let alone the NRL.
Yeah.
And so the way I see it, and again, like, halves take time to develop. Latu's what, 20, 21? There's still some time for him to get through this and, develop a little bit and sort of truly get away from his injuries and then develop into the halfback that we need him to be. But on the flip side, can Jerome be that guy? I'm not really sure. We'll talk about the preview. Marshall's reverted to his old halves pairing this week. So, there's much to talk about there. But, he obviously sees the merit in keeping Jerome as his 7. So it's a really hard one. But moving forward, there's some questions to be answered. Blaine, if we're after a 7, then a short-term player, Adam Reynolds, wouldn't be the worst shout. No, it wouldn't, but he's
Injury-prone player.
Yeah, he's a week-to-week prospect. If he catches fire, he's phenomenal. But, like, if you look at Cherry Evans, who's far more durable, I know who I'm backing. And and Cherry Evans doesn't have to relocate, which is another draw card. I think that, look, they command the same amount of cash. It's just a decision you have to make for the good of your football club. I don't know whether or not either of them would actually want to come to the club, but we'll see what happens.
The other 2 options are Fogarty and Sexton.
Either or, I don't think they'd look at Sexton because you'll lose Fainu without question. Fogarty's just been offered a 3-year deal at Manly. I don't think we go that far. They bumped it up officially today. So it's Reynolds and Cherry Evans. And even then, I can see Brisbane making sacrifices to keep Adam, with guys like Piakura, Mariner, and who's the other one? Hetherington, to try and keep Adam simply because of what he brings them. Ben Hunt can't lead that side around. I saw what he did on Saturday night. Imploded. So, yeah, look, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But, look, back on the game, something that I brought up on X yesterday after the game when I was feeling pretty gloomy was Benji Marshall's bench rotation. For me personally, holy shit, just really quickly, breaking news, Justin Matamu has been named at 6 in New South Wales Cup.
What?
Yeah.
That's 6?
Yeah. Oh, what a throwback.
That's
insane.
That has to be a troll. Like, we have to just be going like, all right, buddy. You know what I mean? Like that has to be like, okay, have a sook, mate. Here you go.
That's so cool.
That
So,
that's it. That says everything about what the West Tigers think of our New South Wales Cup. What like what are you? What, he hasn't even been playing six in the Ron Massey Cup.
mm,
Why is he playing six? Who was playing six last week?
uh, Lachlan Galvin.
Oh yeah, we have. Oh, that's a weird decision.
Who knows? All right. Anyway, sorry. Just going back. So I want to talk about Benji Marshall's bench rotation. I feel like when he doesn't have the side full strength, so the cartel talent, Royce, Jack Bird, Sione, that it just goes to shit. Like,
Yeah,
okay, it sounds like Royce was ruled out late. Whatever happened, whether he woke up crook or you know tripped on a tennis ball at home or done a Todd Payton
who's
20
Royce
times.
Hunt's manager?
Isaac. No. Ooh. Anywho, we lose Royce, and we then automatically decide that we're going to play with 16. Now, that does not benefit anybody except our opposition. I cannot understand it. And every single week we bring Jack and Sione on, and for better or for worse, the first 10 minutes after halftime continues to kill us off. And I'm not blaming them because I love Sione's, what he's brought off the pine, and what he did against Newcastle was unreal. And on Jack's side, yes, okay, he's had a bad couple of weeks, but he brings a lot of effort, intensity, leg speed. But we're going to have a look at what we do with this forward rotation, whether it's starting Jack or Sione or whatever it may be, or even starting Royce and tinkering with this rotation, because Bolle and May can't continue to play 70 minutes plus. That's just not viable. I don't care how big their motors are. You cannot do that for 24 games plus in the NRL. It's just not going to work. So but furthermore, don't replace Royce Hunt with Tony Sukkar. Replace him with the only impact forward that we have in the top 30 besides Royce in Kit Laulii. Or better yet, push Fanua back to the bench. Start
12.
Bird, move 12 to the front row, and sort of tinker with it there, or even just move Seafarth to the middle and give Tony some time on an edge. Like I don't think you really lose anything. Seafarth gave away a penalty at a crucial time yesterday with 10 to go. Like, to me, again, I just feel like the only people that it's benefiting are the opposition. And it is concerning me that jerseys 18 to 30, it's almost as if Marshall doesn't trust them. And that's only going to play into the hands of the other teams around us.
Yeah, Benji's definitely got he's got certain players he trusts too much and some that he doesn't trust enough. I think that's pretty evident. I think that I was having a conversation with certain somebody that I'm not going to mention by name today, and it was on the topic of Matamua and Tumith making the complaints that they've made.
Just really quickly, Mac, there was a statement released by the Tigers just before the team list dropped. The club can confirm that the reports published last night by the Sydney Morning Herald naming 2 West Tigers players were not correct. Neither player has ever made a complaint to the club or the RLPA. This was confirmed by both the players and the RLPA this morning. The story is simply not true.
All right, well then I'll go back to talking about what you were talking about, which is the forwards rotation. I think we all know that we have poor depth when it comes to our pack. Our pack is pretty good. Terrell May's great. Fonua Pole's great. Samuel Afainu's developing well. I thought he was okay yesterday. I thought it was like one of his better games in terms of his level of involvement and taking actual hit-ups and stuff. But after that, it kind of starts to get a little bit pear-shaped. I think that I don't know how much of a difference Kit Laulii would have made. I think we mentioned last week he made 4 runs for 40 metres in 40 minutes last week in New South Wales Cup. Tony Sukkar has played NRL quite recently and did all right. Problem is that they didn't play him. They picked him and then he didn't actually play. Like I don't know if there's anything more to read into than that. Like if you pick him, like balance him into the team. Like I like your thoughts about potentially playing him off in second row and moving. And I still think Samuela would be a pretty formidable middle. I don't know, but and I think Tony is the left edge back rower, so maybe that would have been the play.
I don't hate it.
Drop Samuel to the bench as the Royce Hunt replacement instead, because he'd probably give some good punch off the bench. I haven't seen him come off the bench as an impact forward in a very long time. I'd be curious to see what sort of impact he'd make on a game after 25 or something coming on. But yeah, look, I think if you really think about it, like we beat Newcastle last week, and we know that Newcastle played abysmally, and the Tigers played just as bad. We got flogged the week before. We lost the week before that, and we've lost again. I think the team's out of form. Like I think that they had, a really good game against the Dolphins. That, like, it kind of shows what they're capable of. But outside of that, they've kind of been this just the standard we should be expecting of them. Like I don't know whether the commentators talking about how this is a different Tigers team and we've turned the corner and this and that, maybe giving us too much credit, and it's kind of actually changing the narrative that we're expecting in our minds as fans or something. But I don't know. Like Newcastle were that bad that a 20-6 win over them. If you're only looking at it on paper, it means more. It means less than a loss to a good team. To be honest, it was that bad.
Yeah, look, I think that what we have been able to hang our hats on for nearly every week has been our defence. I think that, even in those losses, with the exception of yesterday, you could probably turn around and say, okay, all right, we defended pretty well. The Brisbane game again, they just scored freakish tries, which, they have a tendency to do. It wasn't necessarily, they drag players out or they get a split somewhere, they'd swing back the other way, play deeper into the line and commit players. It's kind of just like they just scored freakish shit. Whereas yesterday, it was kind of like Parramatta were just picking us off and picking us apart. And there were some defensive lapses and defensive errors, but yes, the Newcastle game was ugly. Our attack was absolutely diabolical. But for me, our defence was still wonderful. Round 2 Parramatta, defence was excellent. That second half against Redcliffe, the way that we defended was the reason that we won that match. So, to me, I'm okay if the attack's not great at the beginning of the year. I think it always takes time, and blokes are learning and those sorts of things. But I don't disagree with you that the team's out of form. I think that the win against Newcastle, for me, and I'll take my licks, probably papered over the cracks a little bit in terms of our attack. And then you take Galvin out and you move Dewey from the left to the right, and suddenly you're creating issues in both attack and defence. So it's obviously now Marshall's recoiling. And I don't blame him for dropping Lachlan Galvin at all. If it were me, he'd be staying in reserve grade. But, this is the call he's made and we'll get to it. But ultimately, it's almost like this was kind of the last sort of loss that we could have before you go, oh shit, we're in free fall again. And if it's an ugly loss against Cronulla, and for the record, I'm tipping a win. If it gets ugly against Cronulla, you start getting worried that they're falling into old habits and the wheels are falling off again.
I'm just looking through the team list. I am stunned that Brent Naden's been named on the wing ahead of Lalali'i. I don't know what the hell that's about. I thought he was really quite poor. He's not much of a winger, in my opinion.
To me, that screams safety. That screams because by the end of it, it was Brent that was fielding those aerial kicks to the left wing by the end of it.
Which was weird because Lalali'i, I think, he dropped the first one or something. But aside from that, he made some pearly takes. He was just they were targeting him, but it wasn't like he was wilting.
I don't know whether or not that was a call from the coach or between those two boys, but nonetheless, that was the call that they made. We'll talk about the game coming in a little while, but look, there's always positives, and for a long period, we fought our way back in the game, and there was some moments where we looked quite good. Look, Jareen Buller's is going to sort of polarise opinion this week because of some of the positioning on those kicks. Again, I said about Moses' 40-20. I don't think there's anything you can do about it. But the Simonson try at the end, that one hurt, and that sort of left me a little bit wanting. But Jareen was phenomenal for us yesterday. I thought.
Yeah.
I thought he was fantastic. I thought Stafford Toa had some really nice touches and did some good things. Uppy was a mixed bag. I think that for me, there you go. Luke Lalete stated as out, so I'm assuming that one of those knocks that he was getting treatment for they might have erred on the side of caution there.
Yeah. I know he got kneed in the head by his own player. Oh no, when he got kneed in the head when he scored the try, yeah, by our own player.
Yep. Look, yeah. Look, there was still some positives, but ultimately, I think that we lost a lot of what has made us, at least watchable, if not endearing, this year. Which was our defensive attitude and our resolve and our ability to constantly repel teams. That did not happen yesterday, and that was really concerning. I felt that as if with Dewey, we were sort of confident that the kicks would have been deeper. I think they were all shallower. I think that Lockie put the ball deeper. I thought that Luai had some wonderful kicks in the first half and really put them in the right places. But we kind of went away from it. That was concerning. Uppy was a mixed bag, beautiful try assist, but the set before he threw two shit passes and then dropped one on the floor. It was a really, really mixed bag. But do I think that the week leading up was the reason for that? I don't. I think they were up for it, but as you say, bit out of form. Was there? Did Parramatta surprise them? Did Mitch Moses surprise them? I guess we'll never know, but you can certainly theorise about it. But as tough as it was, it's how we bounce back that I think is extremely important.
I worry that Parramatta might have given teams a blueprint against us because they exposed Taruva and Toa. And I think that Taruva, even when he was at Penrith, he did, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had one of the highest rate of try causes or something in the NRL, with defensive decision making or something.
Yeah, it was something like that. Look, I think that yesterday the Adokar missed tackle, which led to a try, was the first time that I've really seen it. And look, it's taken 7 weeks for it to rear its head, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But
how many teams have actually gone to the left, targeted us really hard?
That's a good point.
I feel like most of the sides have been trying to get to the middle.
Are you saying now that this might be a blueprint for oppositions?
Well, it's not like I know Adokar's fast, but he hasn't exactly been dominating. And yesterday it looked like Josh Adokar of old. And if if a player who is at the level that 2025 Josh Adokar is at, and who did they have at centre inside him? I don't feel like it was anybody too crashed off.
I think Penasini was playing on that left edge.
He's Parramatta fans have been calling for his head all season. It's not ideal. And then on the other side, Nate and Lally is a very new combination, and you can forgive them for being defensively not up to it. Although Nate and that seems to be his. The same old thing every time he comes into first grade. He just seems like he just can't quite figure that out. But I just worry that we're going up against the Sharks, who have 2 excellent wingers.
They do.
Arguably the best winger in the game and one of the fastest, best young wingers in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if if they go straight after Toa and Taruva again. And I think that on the topic of the whether the team were up to it and stuff like that, I feel like really what happened was that, yes, I think that Para surprised them. I think that the boys were right up for the game and kind of showed up with the mindset that we're going to fuck them up, right? I feel like they really showed up with the real aggressive intent.
Agreed.
Parramatta stayed in the fight, but not just stayed in the fight, got a couple of calls, right? A couple of crucial calls, and then got the wood over us once or twice, legitimately too,
Yep.
and the aggression turned into frustration. And when the aggression turned into frustration, the leadership in the side went missing. When the leadership in the side went missing, I feel like that's when we fell apart. When it should have been the leaders like Taruva, Luai, and co, trying to control the other guys and keep them, their spirits high. Those were the guys leading the aggression, and
Yep.
because they were the ones that were like actually leading the aggression, there was nobody there to turn to actually like sort of get everybody's head back in the game.
Yep, that's a great point. And it's one that Cooper Cronk raised mid game. And look, Cooper Cronk is the most outspoken critic of the West Tigers possibly ever. But what he made a great point of was that post the Taruva Moretti sin biddings, that Parramatta were very, very close huddled together, consolidated, whereas us, you had clumps of players, sort of couple getting treated by Musa, couple being looked after by the blue shirt, couple sort of standing together and talking, and I think that sort of spoke to the resolve of the two teams, and ultimately, I think that's what undid us in the end. Our spine got took to school by one bloke, and he was phenomenal. But given the way that they stood up in the media through the week, and I was extremely proud of the way that they stood up through the week. I expected a much better performance, and a lot more ownership from our spine, particularly our 6 and 9 on the weekend, and we didn't get it, and it was really disappointing.
It's really worrying to me because, like, all of the talk and all of the signs have been, that the team's getting behind Jerome and the team's, really gelling well and that the vibes is high. Um, I don't know. Maybe the team is a little bit clicky. Maybe there is a bit of a Lockie camp in the side, and maybe like the issues related to Lockie are a little bit more of a maybe there are certain players in the team that aren't as part of the Luai camp as others are. I mean, I don't want to like lean into that stuff too much, but what you're saying, it looks like that, and you contrast it with Mitch Moses. Parramatta are a side who look leaderless, and I don't think Mitch Moses is the best leader.
No.
He's a bit of an asshole, really. But when you're blatantly the best player in a squad that can single-handedly win a game, even people who don't like you will follow you because they know that you're going to make them look good. As soon as Lockie's out of the side and the side's not looking so good, then maybe the inverse happens and guys who were possibly sort of getting behind Luai are starting to go, oh, this is not so good. I don't know.
I don't know either, and time will tell on that. Look, to me, and look, it's amazing what 80 minutes does, and it completely changes your perspective. For me, we look like we've made so much good ground on culture, and I'm extremely proud of the side for doing that. That they do look close knit, they look tight, with the exception of obviously Lockie. But for me personally, it's the best we've looked in terms of team culture for decades. I mean, look, I could be completely wrong, and those clumps might be, sort of reflective of what's going on off field. But for me, I don't know. It's probably too early to make a call. And last week they were all, very much behind their coach and backing one another. So
Well,
we'll
they
see what happens.
they being Luai Coruscant, we didn't hear from the other players. Like
Okay, all right. Well, I'm throwing Tito in there. I'm throwing Terrell May in there. I'm throwing
yep.
Fanua Bole in there.
Mm.
Twal hangs out with those boys. Skelly hangs out with those boys. The Laulii brothers are both young poly boys. I know obviously they might be split because of the Galvin stuff. Talent for the most part seems like he's quite. He sort of drifts between the two.
Yeah,
Um,
but that's the point, really, is it only takes 3 or 4 players to not feel part of the team for
yeah,
the
to
whole
create
thing to
a
fall apart. You have to have like all 17 have to be playing together as a team. If even if it's, and I'm not going to name names, but even if it's one back row, one center, a winger, and a bench player that aren't behind 100% behind the on-field captains, and those on-field captains aren't actually like driving the standards with those players, then the whole thing falls apart. And there were players that kind of gave that impression on the weekend. I think that we saw there was one particular player, like Alex Seyfarth, perfect. Like I'll just name him. Like he's a player who I felt like visibly looked frustrated in a way that I haven't seen from him this year. Like he looked bothered, and he played bothered. I think that Sunia Taruva, here's what I'd do. I would, if I'm Benji, I would get Luai, Coruscant, Taruva, and Baller together, and I would say you guys need to address the playing group and take accountability, show leadership that way, and come out, train hard this week, drive new standards, and perform on Saturday, and just put the filth out of it. No social media posts. Don't talk to the media this week. Just actually like lay the law down and get on with the job. And I intentionally incorporate Buller into that because I feel like low key they need to probably start leaning on Buller as a leader, to be honest.
Yes, for multiple reasons. One of which is who his agent is. Let's go through these comments. Just push a couple up, and we'll answer some of them before we talk about the Sharks game.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with this one.
You think so? I reckon that's almost like Aaron Payne forgot about Justin Matamua.
Just remember that this goes on audio, so read the question too.
Oh, okay. Matamua to 6. Is Sheen's back coaching second grade? To me, this feels like Aaron Payne opened the Herald Monday morning, the back pages, and went, oh my God, Justin Matamua and Brandon Tumeth. I've left them languishing in Ron Massey Cup and Sydney Shield. I must call them. And then he said, mate, what can I do? How can I make it up to you? And Justin said, you put me back in my favourite position, and you do it yesterday. And now he's playing in the 6. Genuinely, look, when Juz was coming through, he was a phenomenal 5'8" in a very, very poor Western Suburbs team. But playing reserve grade is another level up entirely. But you know what? This is what I love about cup footy. When they put Brent Naden back to 7 last year, it was some of the fucking most natural football I've ever witnessed. He was catching his own bombs like it was Rugby League 3 on the Nintendo. So wait and see. We'll see what happens. Throw another one up. Blaine, is there really a 13 with that ability available on the market with that skill set? Mac, you answered that before. What's his name?
Yeah. Is there anyone else?
No, I don't think so. Lachlan, Galvin. What else we got?
Let's see. Yeah, this is a good one.
Jay Wick, where does Buller rank amongst current fullbacks? Let me have a look at the ladder. I'll
jump in on this while you're doing a bit of research. So
yeah, go for it.
Having some conversations with people over the last week about origin selection and talking about who Queensland are going to pick for fullback. And it's been something we've discussed a couple of times on the podcast this year because Jahream Buller, despite what people might know, I believe, is origin eligible for Queensland and has said that he doesn't want to play for Queensland, but eligible he is all the same. I think that he's been a better fullback this year than all three of the options that Queensland have. I think he's outplayed Walsh, I think he's outplayed Ponga, and I think he's outplayed Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow. Now, Hamas had a bit of a return to form over the last couple of weeks, which probably given his, experience in the domain, in my opinion, probably actually puts him in the driver's seat to be the Queensland fullback this season, because I think Walsh and Ponga are terribly out of form. That to me, that should probably put it into perspective. On the New South Wales side of the equation, I think Dylan Edwards has been out of form. James Tedesco has been pretty good, but the Roosters haven't been playing too amazing. So Bull is one of the form fullbacks in the NRL.
I think he's one of the form fullbacks in the NRL, but some of these comments are indicating there's some questions around his positional play, particularly defensively. He gets caught at A quite often, as all fullbacks do. They plug in, but his biggest issue is getting away from the collision and then sort of moving. I don't think there's really been a problem yet that has arisen where a side has went, okay, we've got Buller parked on the left, let's shift the ball 2 passes wide and roll a kick in. That hasn't happened just yet, but I do worry that it's happened. The 40-20s against Ben Hunt and Mitchell Moses again, you can't stop that, but there's definitely some cause for concern. But look, based on current form and just looking at, quality touches and intangibles of fullback play. I did some I just went through the ladder then. I think he's about the 7th or 8th best fullback in the comp. Teddy's better than him. Edwards is better than him. Ponga's better than him. Turbo's better than him. Drinkwater's better than him. Who else?
I would argue that
Pappy's better than him. I like that's.
I would argue that that says a lot more about how we're using him than him, because in his touches he's been fantastic. I feel
He
like
has.
I feel like that we probably. So this is a weird thing about the Tigers is that I think that they don't feel like that they have a they still don't feel like that they have an attacking identity that's like actually sustainable to me. Like when Galvin's in the side, the attacking identity is very Galvin centric and it's very predictable, and they kind of it felt like they figured it out as they went, and then they figured out something that worked, and then they just stuck with it. And I don't know whether like they're involving Buller enough on the left. Like I think that that's something that I saw mentioned yesterday. Buller only ever seems to pop up on the right, and most teams attack primarily down the left, and whether that's an issue with the Skelton not being there, or potentially just Dewey not necessarily being strike, or there's something more to it, and they just really just prefer to try to score through Tola and Taruva because Tola and Taruva are in good form and have scored a few tries. I don't know, but they've become predictable. And until they kind of, add more strings to their bow, like they have like a left side raid play and a right side raid play. Obviously, they've got the crash ball from Appy and things like that. I feel like that Buller's numbers are probably going to be lower than they might otherwise be because as an attacking team, they're not quite as big of a threat as they could be. Here's another question. Well, it's not so much a question as a statement.
Need a 13 and bring 12 back to the bench. I don't disagree. It's just finding the right person. The market is extremely dry at the moment. And for the 13 that we need, I don't really know if there is anybody. Look, Jack Hetherington would have been nice, but he can't ball play. Kobe Hetherington. Kobe's best attribute is his defence and it's his effort plays. He scrambles really, really hard. He gets back. Quite often you see him make some wonderful tackles on his line. He's done it in a grand final. But for me personally, his ball playing skill, Matt just tried to develop it this year, but compared to his colleague Pat Carrigan, it's just not up to standard. Could we develop somebody? Yeah, okay. We spoke about Lachlan Galvin. That would be nice. But again, does he have the defensive resolve to put up 45, 50 tackles with only 2 to 3 missed in the NRL week to week? No, I don't think so. Can Latu do it? Possibly, but I still have questions around his durability, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast. It's a really, really difficult situation, and until Siatame Havea is first grade ready, I find that we are going to struggle with this. Is there somebody we can develop? Right now, I don't think there's anybody in the wheelhouse, so it's a toughie. Do you have any thoughts there?
I mean, unless somebody comes along real quick, like there's a few progressive talents in the like SG ball age that are now pushing through to New South Wales Cup and flag, who could come on quick. The likes of Duncombe, even somebody like Bailey Hodges, who's just now starting to flesh out some good minutes in New South Wales Cup.
True.
They need to have like those are two guys who you'd be looking to see a lot of development out of this year, and then a big off season, and you never know, right? Like there's a chance, but I think that generally we need to go to market. I feel like that we're too quiet in the market right now. I think that when you look at a competitive roster, like you see a lot more first grade ready prospect forwards that are in the sort of 20 to 30 position on the roster at other teams than you see it at us. Like I think you can just highlight that by looking at who's on our extended bench this week. You've got only 2 forwards. You've got Tony Sukkar and Kitlalali'i, and on the other side you've got multiple forwards on the Sharks extended bench,
Yep.
and some of them are quite experienced first graders. Braden Hamlin Uele, Billy Burns, Jesse Colquhoun. These are like players that are in their depth part of their roster that like we don't have that pushing through. We don't have that threatening the positions of the guys. We don't have those guys to rotate onto the bench to give guys minutes off that when they need to be rested. And to put it frankly, the ones that we do have, the likes of Sukkar and Lolalei, I don't really view them as like premium prospects. I don't think Sukkar and
Agreed.
Lolalei. I don't think that those two guys would probably be in any other team's top 30. I think that they're favoured because they're juniors. I don't think that those are guys that if they were off contract this year, that other teams would be chomping at the bit to try to go add to their top 30. They'd probably go get training trial deals, no drama. But
Yeah.
are they premium prospects? No, they are not. You look at the premium prospects around the NRL, and you're looking at dudes like those two Warriors forwards, one of which absolutely blitzed us and has now pushed all the way into starting position in first grade and scored a ripper try, Halasima. Like, we don't have
Yeah.
that level of talent in the forwards coming through, which begs the question: what the hell? Where'd they all go? Like, I felt like in the last 3 seasons we've had lots of good forwards prospects coming through, but none of them seem to have sprung out of the ground. Like, we had that Harold Matthews winning side, and I guess the premium prospect from that side that was in the forwards was Lachlan Galvin. So, I don't know. It's a strange situation that we've got ourselves in with our pathways. There's guys like who was the middle that got flag player of the year last year? Tofeoano, is that who it was?
Yeah. Herman.
That just haven't cracked on. You know what I mean? And then Tim Johansson, who like jumps out of the ground last year, doesn't crack on. We're now in a position where we're looking at needing to sign an NRL ready 13 and an NRL ready back rower and another NRL quality center when it should be coming through from development. And you're talking about a kid that was in flag this year as as who we need to wait on to solve that problem. And it's just
Oh no,
not
he's
really.
not in flag. He's in Harold Matts.
That's what I meant to say. He's Harold Matts this year.
It's even
Yeah. So,
worse. Yeah.
so I don't know
It's
what's
dire.
yeah, and one thing that really like I don't understand is like what is with this club and its inability to unearth and progress like middles that are big. You know what I mean? Like we never seem to have like a big giant motherfucker that comes through. Like that fucking 17 for Parry yesterday, that dad dick Jack Bird. Where's our version of him? Where's Tuivasa? He's off contract, by the way. Where's Tuivasa? Like,
His
where's
name
that?
was Jordan Miller, but he didn't turn up to training.
Jordan, even well, we talked like ad nauseum about Jordan Miller. Like, he was a pretty unique type of prospect in his own right.
He was.
He was a skill based forward, like Glenn Lazarus style forward, not like a big fucking angry like Easter Island statue like our Surface Solomona, like the type
True.
of player that you see just coming off the fucking factory line at the Roosters year in year out.
Yeah.
Where are they? We're literally the West Tigers. Isn't
We
the
had
whole
what?
fucking MacArthur region like absolutely swimming with these kids? Where the fuck are they all? And
Well,
like,
we've got one, but he's only just made his flag debut this week. So,
are you talking about Tapau Moores?
yeah.
I feel like Tapau Moores is like somehow looks smaller this year than he did last year.
Well, he's a year young, but yeah, I agree. Anyway, look,
What do we just is the problem that we don't have like the genetic like DNA fucking like program that we need to actually like give the HGH and shit to these kids to actually turn them into beasts? Like, do we need to be injecting them with steroids or something? Like, what are these other clubs doing to unearth all of these giants?
possibly. Somebody said Jack Bird. Sorry, no. Um, I don't think. Oh, there you go. Tuivasa and Moses' client. Thank you, Jay Wick, who I think is tie-dye/PCP. Um, yeah, jeez, I don't
He's a
know.
good player, isn't he?
He's a great player, and you know what? Yeah, look, and you know what? I must say, what Jack produced in his stint yesterday is the reason why he can't start. He hypothetically,
Not in the forwards.
if he started this week, Fanua Blake would take him to the cleaners. The role that he had when he had Royce and then he was bouncing off Royce to hit up after was perfect. But if he doesn't have Royce to scatter those players around the middle corridor before he takes his hit up, or has a bit of shape around him, he loses his effectiveness. And
I just want to,
and that speaks to bench rotation again.
I just want to just do a real quick around the grounds and look at some of these other lineups and just name some names of some of these forwards that are on the extended benches of some of these other clubs. Let's start with the Broncos. Martin Tapau, Ben Takura. Where the fuck is our Ben Takura? And for that matter, where's our Martin Tapau? Why haven't we got a freaking aging workhorse prop that we can call on when we need to? The Bulldogs, Daniel Saluka for feeder. He'd be in our 17, I reckon. Especially with how well he started the year and the trials that I watched. I don't know who this Lipoi Hopoi guy is, but you would. Tell me about him.
He went through Flag then Cup last year, made his debut, didn't look out of place.
Big guy?
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Massive?
Oh, nah, because he can sort of play all three. He can play front row, back row, lock.
Oh, wouldn't that be good? Where's our one of those?
Yeah, KG underscore Tiger says, I'm going for Finau Latu. I know we don't want to block Tame, but he's going to be a gun. Yeah, Finau is going to be a gun. I don't disagree, but is the NRL ready? Can you plug him in and play him? Can he do exactly what we need him to unlock Jerome down that left edge and Latu down the right? I'd love for it to happen.
Instant segue. Let's talk about the Dragons. Let's have a look at who they've got in their extended bench. Finau Latu, Loco Pacifica Tonga. Where's our Loco Pacifica Tonga? Raymond Faitala Mariner. Again, he's the Martin Tapau. Where's our one of that? Look at the Roosters. What have they got? Who the fuck is Taylor Lasalu? He looks like the largest human being I've ever seen in my life.
He's the fucking concreter that's on a part-time deal.
Oh, he looks like a massive unit. He's
but
huge.
Jersey 22 is Makahisi Makatoa, who's been in more clubs than Slim Dusty.
Why haven't we got Makasini Makatoa? What the fuck are we doing? I know he's not the best player going around, but
do a job.
He do a job. We've got we've got 2-3 roster spots that we're not even filling up. We've got a bunch of players off contract next year that are playing, as we know, they're playing 6 in New South Wales Cup now, but they were playing Ron Massey Cup and Sydney Shield last week. Where are we in the market at filling out these players? I don't know. It's
all right. Look,
I'm becoming unhinged, but it's getting on my nerves because all the talk around the Tigers is all fucking drama centric. We're talking about Lachlan Galvin's contract, and it's all about focusing on Lachlan Galvin. We've got a football team to run, and there's weaknesses in the team that are fucking fixable, simple fixable weaknesses. Some of these people that I just named aren't in the top 17s of the clubs they're at. All of them, none of them. So they're all available ostensibly, right? That means that you go to their agents and you say, fucking love that guy. Tampering? Pfft, what's tampering? Ask fucking Jason Riles what tampering is. It's nothing. He's literally on the fucking post game having a laugh about how he's going to be in for Galvin. Fucking tampering. Kidding me?
Look, roster building is an imprecise science. I think that Richardson did a phenomenal job getting jerseys 1 to 17 in place. We still have work to do, and it starts with blokes like Insight Legacy, as just mentioned. Should we get Kai Pearce-Paul from the Knights, would he make a difference? Absolutely, he makes a difference. Now, not only is that a guy because I think we need 2 to 3 more signings for the top 17, and then a couple underneath, to your point, Mac. But he pushes people down the depth chart. Let's say Kai Pearce-Paul comes to the club. He goes straight to the right edge. Alex Seyfarth, you put straight to the bench. A guy like Jack Bird likely falls off and goes back to reserve grade. Then you have a guy that is actual NRL quality, NRL experience. Forget the way that Jack played yesterday. But suddenly you have these guys on your extended bench, and you're not calling up guys like Kit. And this is how it works.
Yeah.
Let's say hypothetically that, you know, we do decide that we need a centre and we sign Taylor May or Viliami Vailea, right? Let's say we do that. Adam Dewey then goes straight to the extended bench, and you have a proper backup half that can cover centre, could probably cover lock at a pinch, could cover wing at a pinch. You know, this is what it helps with. You sign a 13. Okay, let's go to KG's point. We sign Finau Latu. You start him hypothetically at 13. 12 goes back to the bench. You probably then push Sione back to the reserve grade, and then he sits on the extended bench. And suddenly you're sitting there going, okay, all right, this is pretty good. We're looking all right. But we just don't have that right now.
You want to know why Melbourne are good? Have you looked at their extended bench this week? Number 18 is Lasardi. Number 19 is Fa'alongo. Number 20 is Keegan Russell-Smith. Number 21 is Kobe Williams. Number 22, Nelson Usso for Solomona. Like, it's a KPI. If your, like, extended bench is NRL talent, you're a good team. It's a KPI that we should be looking at.
Yeah, I agree. And look, again, Richardson did a phenomenal job with the player recruitment. Every single player. And look, Jack Bird has had some dodgy stints the last couple of weeks, but every single player has made a positive impact to the team's culture and our upturn in results. No matter which way you look at it, we are doing exceptionally well. Blaine Caton would be very good if Junior December was even interested to come to Australia. He just signed a 7-year contract with Wigan, mate. He's not going anywhere. Sorry.
7 years. Oh.
7 years. Yeah, he'd be a great shout, sure.
Man loves his England. Hey, shout out to Declan Casey, named on the extended bench for the Rabbitohs this week. He's found another club to threaten to play him in first grade. Good on you, Declan.
Joint Desia, can you highlight that one, the second most recent comment?
Oh, I don't want to. I intentionally saw it, and I didn't want to like give it oxygen.
I know someone within the Tigers organisation. When the truth comes out, you guys will be shocked. You will understand why Galvin and his dad did what they did. 3 sides. There's 3 sides to the story. I don't think either side is telling the complete truth right now, and I don't think we'll ever hear it. It's as simple as that. But with that, let's talk about this game against the Cronulla Sharks. I'm going to read out the team list. It is pretty much our full strength 13. Now that one controversial player is back. Fullback Jareen Bullard, wingers Sinea Taruva and Brent Naden. Luke Lally is out. We spoke about that earlier in the episode. Adam Dewey and Stafford Toa are our centres. Adam obviously back at left centre as opposed to being right-sided half on Monday. Lachlan Galvin, Jerome Luai the half. We'll get to that. Terrell May, Upper South, Coruscant. Fanua Bole, Samuel Afinu, Alex Seafarth and Alex Twal are the starting forward pack. The cartel is back together pending any late changes. Talon De Silva, Royce Hunt is back to play his former club. Jack Bird and Sione Fainu. Put your coach's cap on, Joe McCord. Would you have picked Lachlan Galvin this week?
Yes. Begrudgingly, and only because Latu Fainu is not available. I feel like that if you're serious, you go, look, I didn't pick Lachlan Galvin and wouldn't have picked Lachlan Galvin last week because I thought that he needed the weekend reserve grade. That's why I wouldn't have picked him last week. I thought he needed a rest. I thought he needed some time out of the spotlight. And then the whole thing blew up anyway. Now, I don't think that's why Benji didn't pick him in first grade. I think Benji literally put him out of the limelight for his own good. I believe that's why he did it. But even me, for my reasoning, after seeing the output from Adam Dewey at 7, you can't not just bring him back. Like I even if my justification is he needs time away to, you know, just have a reset away from first grade and rebuild. You're in the business of winning games. You can like do that in the hopes that maybe Dewey comes in and looks like the part, and you know Naden comes in and adequately fills that hole, and then you've got another combination to move back and forth between as you need. But all that I saw was evidence that that's not an option moving forward. Like, we cannot run with Adam Dewey at 7 ever again. Like, it just can't be the option. He could not kick the ball where he wanted to kick it. Like, he can't play halves, unfortunately. And with that in mind, you can't not pick Lachlan Galvin back in the side. Now, I saw a bunch of people talking about Kurt Falls as an option. I want to just want to put it out there. Everybody, like, there's people out there, they like to scan reserve grade lists and just go, Kurt Falls, that's an option. Kurt Falls only got signed to the West Tigers in like February on a train and trial deal and has probably not trained 5 minutes with the first grade side. Can't play him at halfback in the NRL side.
And
Um,
Kurt Falls has played 4 NRL games, and he
and he's
played them
also,
2 years ago.
that's right. Adam Dewey is at least a very experienced NRL half. You're gonna go to him first. So for the people out there who are like, touting the idea that we pulled the wrong rein and should have went with Kurt Falls, I don't know, like where you guys get your information from, but Kurt Falls hasn't even been that good in the New South Wales Cup side that's been abysmal. So, nope. Now, Lachlan Galvin,
Uh,
yes, I pick him.
let,
That's the long story short. Benji
yeah,
Marshall only dropped him to get him out of the limelight for 1 week. So Benji Marshall's justification is not even as good as my justification was. Benji Marshall can't not pick him. If Benji Marshall didn't pick him this week, it would look like an agenda. And right now, unfortunately, politically, I don't believe that he can actually like pull that rein. I don't believe Benji wants to pull that rein. I don't believe Benji dropped him for any punitive reason. So why wouldn't Benji pick him straight away?
I think, yeah, look, I think that Benji had his welfare in mind. I think that there was a lot of different factors. Obviously, the playing group came into it later in the week. I think all of these things sort of, the sum of its parts was Galvin playing reserve grade or being rested. Either way, he wasn't going to play first grade. But moving on to this week, it makes things really interesting. We've just had a loss, and things have turned up another notch. There's a legal letter citing bullying or not creating a safe workplace environment, which is a concern. That the Tigers will have to deal with. On the other hand, we need to win games, and quite frankly, our defensive combos weren't up to scratch because Dewey was moved from the left to the right, Galvin was taken out, we had Naden and Lauliti on that left edge, so it made for some disruption. The only way to shut up either narrative is just to fucking win games, and if that's with Lachlan or without him, then so be it. But this is our best chance, whether we like it or not. And again, I would prefer that we cut ties with Lachlan. I'll go on the record and say it. But right now, the most important thing is we need to fucking win games. And while Latu Fainu is currently injured, for however long it takes, we need to put our best side in the park. And if Lachlan's a part of that, you put it to the side, you get everybody in a meeting, you fucking shake hands, and you move on.
I don't even think that that's necessary. I think that a lot of, I mean, I would still do it, but like I don't think that the connective tissue between Lachlan Galvin and Jerome Luai is as negative as people think it is. I just don't think it's there. There was footage that came out on the day that we did the media of Lachlan Galvin frolicking merrily on the Concord Oval, hanging out with the boys, and nobody seemed to give a shit. I don't think that like there's any kind of negative will between him and them at all. I think that it's largely like aimed at the situation, aimed at the agent. Sure, they probably giving him a little bit of stick, but mates give mates stick. like, let's be real here. Like, it's a whole bunch of people putting their fucking prissy pants on, saying, the boys are bullying the kid for writing social media posts. Here comes the money. Like, that's the biggest joke I've ever heard. Like, Lachlan Galvin got offered a fuck ton of money and then turned it down. He's not about the money. Like, Sunia Taruva was obviously joking. Like, that, the whole thing, and there's no way Lachlan Galvin would have taken it seriously. Was it stupid? Yes, optically. But I don't believe there's tension, is my point. I don't believe there's tension. I think that the players are all professional. I think that everybody, like Jerome Luai and Sunia Taruva especially, can't begrudge Lachlan Galvin wanting to go to a club where he feels like he's going to play. And I'm not agreeing that it's a good decision on his part, but they did the exact same fucking thing. I just don't think that it's real. I don't think that there's real animosity between him and the players. There might be animosity between, there might be like a frustration, but Lachlan Galvin is the sort of guy who, and this is where I'm getting at with this, who doesn't give a fuck. For all of his, for all of how like, you might not like to hear it as a fan or even as like a fucking grown-ass man that there's a 19-year-old kid out there who like walks around with all these lads and couldn't give two fucks about what they think, but he doesn't. He doesn't. He never has. He doesn't give a fuck. He's a very, very, very self-assured human being. Very, very self-assured human being.
Absolutely.
When Benji
But
Marshall told him that he wanted him to play in first reserve grade, he get whatever you think, coach. I don't give a fuck. Like he doesn't give a shit. Benji Marshall calls him back up. Lachlan Galvin is probably the only player in this roster that I've seen so far that comes back from like moments like last week's adversity and plays better. He did it last year multiple times. He actually like goes to a new level every time he gets a setback. He actually has that about him. I know everybody's off him, but like his qualities are his qualities. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. I think Lachlan Galvin's probably gonna have a good game this week.
that'd be nice. We'll get to that. Look, without dragging right back into this, there was some words said in that team meeting from some certain individuals.
It was
Where,
Terrell May. I know it's on the record. You can say it.
oh, well, Terrell basically said this is a team meeting. It's not about you. Sit the fuck down. Now, yes, Galvin is the type of guy to just take it in his stride and walk away. But at the same time, would it be in the back of his mind? I don't know. This week's gonna say plenty. In terms of what happens in the dynamic of the way that the team sets up, I'm really, really interested to see what happens. Is Uppy going to give Lachlan the amount of touches that he was getting before all this blew up? I don't think so, personally. I think that you'll see Luai probably get, sort of 55 to 60 touches to Galvin's 40 to 35 to 40. That's my thinking around it. But they may also go back to the status quo and play the way they were going. But in saying that, I do anticipate that Galvin will probably take the line on more, which will lead to play breaking down more, and that will make our attack look even worse.
Lachlan Galvin gets touches because Lachlan Galvin's got a motor that no other player has, and he puts himself in position to receive the ball off of anybody, anywhere on the field at any time during the game. That's why Lachlan Galvin gets touches. There's nothing Appy Carousel can do about it.
This is true. I just mean in terms of
Appy's not going to pick up the ball.
You worked a tram line, you worked a left post, and you switched that ball.
Well, yeah.
Are they going to play? Are they going to play short side instead?
Well, I mean, Appy, if Appy does intentionally go away from Lachlan Galvin just because, then Appy should be reprimanded for that. I would hope he does not. Appy should do what he thinks is going to score points. Now, if he moves away from Lachlan Galvin in order for us to score more points, that's different. That's fine. But if it's literally just because, no, that's ridiculous.
I don't think that he'll do it just because. But I think that they were giving Galvin more touches of the ball simply because, that was the way that the attack was set up. I think there might be a chance, and even with what happened on Monday, that they might go, okay, all right, Jerome needs more touches. Jerome needs the ball in his hands a little bit more, and we need to involve him more. And that might be at Lachlan's expense.
I agree with that. I think Jerome Luai, actually close to the line, is a more threatening presence than Lachlan Galvin. I think that, without Galvin there, Jerome Luai got those important finishing touches and put in good kicks, and we scored a couple of tries off kicks that we usually don't. So I think that you might be right in that sense that close to the line we might move towards going more towards Luai, but I think Lachlan Galvin in general play is more likely to receive a ball because he's a bigger body. He takes more hit ups. He's better at going down the short side. He's better at stripping the numbers between the 40s. I think that from that perspective, he won't lose touches. He might lose touches in the red zone though. You're probably right.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. But look, we'll wait and see. And just as long as they score more points than the opposition, I don't really mind. Look, it sounds like Luke is out for Brent. So he's injured. I feel better with Brent on that wing. The only issue is just speed. Sam Stonestreet is quick. Jesse Ramian is a very, very physical specimen. If they get us in a 4-4 split or an overlap, that's going to be difficult for us to contain. There's no two ways around that for mine. But at the end of the day, you never know. And physically they match up. It's just in terms of speed. So big assignment there for those boys through the middle. Adam Fanua Blake goes without saying. I really, really hope to see Fanua and Terrell, really take it to these two like they have with, Carrigan and Haas and Fisher Harris and Barnett, because this is going to be a toughie. Oregon for Kafusi is one of the more underrated middle forwards in the league, and somebody that is a massive issue. Britt Nikora, obviously the greatest hole runner in the league currently. Cameron McInnes goes all day. This is going to be a tough game, but if we are going to win, it is simply just line speed, pressure on these halves, and playing field position. I don't think that they have an absolute wonderful kicker of the ball. If we can play field position, repel them when required, and score and score points, we can win this game. We went to Leichhardt last year after an ugly loss in Canberra and beat them in our second game in round 3, and it was a wonderful performance. We have a better side this time around. It's 4:00 on a Sunday. First game at the 8th, a lot to play for, a lot to prove after Monday. I am expecting a response, and I don't think Cronulla are in as good a form as the ladder probably suggests. They did not put Newcastle away until there was an acrimonious bidding at James Schiller on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The Sharks are not in like their best form, but I would go as far as to say I think their ladder position is probably lower than their quality. Because if you look at the results they've had this year, their losses, round one to Penrith, in Vegas, I kind of bin that, to be honest. And then they flogged the Cowboys. They beat the Rabbitohs, who are going well. They've won plenty of games.
Are they
Lost.
that good,
They
South?
lost.
Are they
Well, I
that
mean,
good?
regardless of whether they are or not, they lost to the Sharks. Then the Sharks lost to the Bulldogs, who have proven to be the benchmark team in the comp.
Yes, but the
They
Bulldogs were missing Kickow and Burton that day, and they were playing at home at Cronulla.
Yeah,
Must be said.
they then lost to the Raiders, and that was like a 2 week period there where the Sharks were on the decline, and then they beat Manly, who again are probably not up to their absolute best, but they won, and then they've won two since. So I mean and then on the weekend, yeah, maybe they didn't flog the Knights, but like they put 34 past them. We only put 20 past them.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I think that my feeling here is that like this is a I don't think you could reasonably select the Tigers against the Sharks, except for the Leichhardt effect. Like you have to be assuming that the Leichhardt effect is going to give us like 3 tries or something. Like if you think that the Leichhardt effect is going to give us 3 extra tries, then maybe. But coming off of the form lines that we've shown, the form lines that they've shown, I don't know, man.
You're probably right. I am accounting for the Leichhardt factor, being our 14th player on the field. I think that a packed house, a full hill, it's not a happy hunting ground for Nicholas Hines. These types of things, I think they play into our hands. But at the same time, you have to look at it objectively. Adam Fanua-Blake is a phenomenal front rower and not like anything we have faced this year. They have speed and size and class in the outside backs, even with Kalitor out. Braden Trindle is one of the better natural ball players in the comp, and if he gets a quick play of the ball, he's going to be hard to stop. They've got some really nice hole runners in Britt Nikora and Teague Wilton. But I do think they are a beatable team, and I do think that if we come to play with the right attitude and with the same defensive resolve that we showed in rounds 1 to 6, that we'll have a better game than probably some expect.
I mean, I'm happy to hear it from you because you're usually very like numbers oriented, stats based. You don't really go with your gut intuitively very much. So when you have intuition about a result, it's definitely worth noting because I'm usually the opposite, and I get that the Sharks are beatable. I get that Hines is somebody who can be rattled. I get that the Leichhardt effect. It's probably like Nico Hines probably wouldn't like playing at Leichhardt. He's not the sort of player I could see reveling in it. If Jonathan Thurston didn't like playing at Leichhardt Oval, I doubt Nico Hines likes playing at Leichhardt Oval. Um, But yeah, these two teams are uneven. Like the Tigers are no match for the Sharks, 1-17. I
Completely agree there. But again, as CB said, as long as no West or Balmain greats die through the week, we might have
well, I
a
think
we're in with a chance.
I think a lot of it's going to come down to the fans. I know it sounds strange. I'll like bring up this comment I brought up before. First meeting says that the Tigers fans won't boo Lockie. The real fans love the kids' efforts, love the other players. Time to forget last week, ditch all the BS and focus on the footy. I hope so, because I feel like that it's critical that the Leichhardt crowd actually get us home here. I know that the energy in that stadium can definitely turn into an 18th man, um, but I think they're going to boo the fuck out of him.
Yeah, I think it's going to. They're all going to be in chorus. Sunday session, Sunday mass. Yeah, it's going to be very loud, and it's not going to be very positive for Lachlan. But
Yeah.
hey, to your point, maybe he doesn't give a shit. Maybe he takes it in his stride.
Oh.
Maybe his father pulls him off field mid game. Who knows?
Can you imagine if like Lachlan Galvin's getting booed and like scores a try and shushes his own fans?
That would be like peak meme club. Peak
That'd
meme
be the
club.
most tight. What would you? How would you feel as a Tigers fan if that happened?
I'd laugh. I would
Would you be
laugh.
happy? Would you be like, oh, good on you, cunt, or would you be like, sorry, language? Would you be happy, or would you be like, what a little dipshit? Like what? Because that'd be the most divisive thing
Yeah,
ever.
I go look at it. Yeah, I go what a little dipshit. But at the
I'd
same time,
probably be like, good on
no,
you,
no,
because like booing him, man. Like look, let's put this. I'll put this whole thing into perspective once again. You said before when we were talking about the that meeting, and I said just say it. It's on the record. Terrell May said what he said. You're quoting a journalist. I don't trust a fucking single thing that comes out of any of their mouths. I don't care which side of the camp, which agent they serve, which club they're in bed with, or whether they're independent. They all have the same agenda, which is to generate clicks and impressions and engagement. Terrell May might have said, Lachlan, just sit down, mate. We don't need to hear it. And that could easily just mean this is a team meeting. What are you standing up there for, bro? Sit down, relax. And like, journalist hears that and goes, he told Lachlan to sit down. How the fuck do you know how he meant it? Has anybody gone to Terrell May and asked him? No. Why would anybody go to Terrell May and ask him? Because that doesn't generate clicks. Terrell May is going to come back and said, it was a little bit weird having Lockie stand up there. It was a team meeting. Wanted to go through video. Like, that's not going to generate clicks, is it? I don't trust a single thing any of these motherfuckers say. So, on that front, the only thing that I trust is that my own judgment, right? My own judgment about this whole situation. And I think the truth is that Lachlan Galvin does not want to be the next Luke Brooks. I think that's all it comes down to. I think Lachlan Galvin does not want to play for the West Tigers. I don't think he ever did. I don't think he's ever wanted to play for the West Tigers. I think he would have probably played for the West Tigers and kept mum if he didn't blow up. If he didn't blow up so quickly, he'd just be another young player who probably leaves the club at the end of his first contract and nobody gives a fuck. But because he blew up, it all became like, oh shit, I got options now. Oh, well, man, maybe I should take those options because I don't even want to be here because I don't want to be the next Luke Brooks. Especially when you have Isaac Moses as an agent. You've probably been mentored by Mitch Moses because let's face it, agents actually do network their players together and actually, do that sort of shit. That's like, and where are West Tigers fans? There ain't anybody out there aside like that knows how frustrating it is to be like part of this club more than the West Tigers fan base.
Yeah,
None of
man.
us could begrudge Lachlan Galvin not wanting to be the next Luke Brooks. None of us. So stop listening to the media. Stop letting them agitate you. Stop letting them turn you against a 19-year-old kid who just does not want to be the next Luke Brooks. Okay? Latu Fainu couldn't care less about being the next Luke Brooks. And you know why? Because Latu Fainu's got his two brothers here and he actually wants to be here and he wants to be a part of the club. And he loves the fucking culture of the club. And he loves the captains and he loves the coach. And maybe that's a cultural thing. Who knows? I don't want to turn it into a race debate, but probably makes some sense, right? So fuck it. We move on. We ball. Lachlan Galvin, be a professional, go and play. He will. Fans, be fans.
Agreed. With that, score prediction.
I'm gonna I hate giving score predictions when I think it's
Fine,
going to
I'll
be
go
a loss.
first. 18-14 to the Tigers.
Yeah, I hate score predictions when I think it's going to be a loss. Look, I think we're going to get pasted. I feel like that the
Ooh.
Sharks are going to put 40 past us, to be honest.
Well, on for and against, you had us winning 54-0 on
Yeah, I
Monday,
know,
so
and
that's good.
maybe I'm a little bit maybe I'm a little bit gun shy. Maybe yeah. Sharks 40, Tigers 16.
Fine. All right, let's go through these pathways. Knock-on effect cup. Everybody was watching because Lachlan Galvin was playing. They went down 22-10. I watched the match. For people wanting to know how Lachlan played, he played exactly like he does in first grade. He took too many runs that led down dead ends, but he also had some nice touches with his kicks and his passes, particularly for the try assist for I think it was 2 or 2 by Thompson or something like that. So nice work to him. First half was calamitous. There was errors everywhere. They put themselves under too much pressure. It eventually led to tries for Parramatta. They're up 22-6 at half time. We defended quite well in the second half, it must be said, but we left our run too late. And once we finally got some quality ball, we scored. We didn't score enough points to win. I think that's the long and short of it. Ellie Elzachem, I want to give a quick shout out to. He looks a real handful at this level. Offloads quite often, tends to break tackles. Thought he did some good things. Tua Tupou seems to be really finding his feet in this side, which is nice. I think he looks a good find for this grade. And Heath Mason, I really like his carries that he's taking as we progress into good ball. Really steps in hard off his right foot, creates a lot of havoc for these A, B, and C defenders, and is really finding his feet and developing as a fullback. Obviously, there's still some work to do around the high ball and whatnot, but yeah, I think those are pretty much the positives.
Yeah, I didn't
Anything
watch
else?
it. Nah, I don't really have anything to add. I'd just like to shout out, um, for those who don't know, Tim Johansson has left the club. I know that talked about him quite a bit. So, for listeners of the podcast probably, actually know who he is and care. He's no longer with the West Tigers. As of today, I don't believe he's got a contract at any other club. So, good luck to Tim. I hope you find a deal somewhere else. Noah did play on the weekend as an emergency 18th man, and
He had some nice touches, but yeah, it's disappointing. Timmy leaving, and somebody that we're pretty high on, and somebody we obviously interviewed, and somebody
mm,
that we are close to. I really do hope that he picks it up, but at the same time, whatever he does, with footy or otherwise, we wish him well.
I want to just
Um,
highlight this
go on.
comment here. No one talks about AFL or union. Have you ever heard of the social media echo chamber, Scott? Look it up. No, but seriously, did you see that bloody Waratahs try? Waratahs scored a try on I think it was either the weekend just got. No, I think it was last weekend. Suaalii featured heavily in it. Rip a try. Go look it up. It was like a 110-meter try from the back of the end zone. It looked the goods. I personally think that, I remember growing up, I used to watch, I never watched Union as much as I watched League, but when the like Super Rugby first came out and it was like, you know, proper competitive and the Bledisloe was competitive, I liked it. I thought it was good. I'd like to see it get back there. They fucked the game so bad with officialdom. I hope that we don't do the same, but I'm not holding my breath because goddamn,
Mm,
some of the one thing that happened on the weekend that really pissed me off, was just after we gave away that. Was it just after? It was just after one bad call. Oh, I think it was when we got penalised for the the high shot. Just when they after we got the penalty, and they showed that on the first carry, like we didn't get the penalty really early in the
mm.
game. Luca Moretti plays the ball and he just rolls it straight between his legs, as clear as day. Referee doesn't do shit about it. So obviously that crackdown's over.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I reckon we should do a count of how many play the balls just get rolled moving forward for the rest of the year and see how many get blown a penalty. I'm going to go with duck egg.
Ugh.
Except for us,
But
we'll probably have three more before the end of the season.
Don't talk about it. Moving on, there's a Lions tour this year, so yeah, tune in on that. No one talks about AFL, Scott, because it fucking sucks. Jersey
I didn't
flag,
even, didn't even bring it up.
yeah, 34 to 26, the Tigers went down. Minutes for those three boys that are on development contracts next year. Jared Haywood, Phoenix got an A. Oh, actually, Duncan played.
Yeah, he got
Christian
a late
Torpower
call.
Moores did not. So
Yeah.
interesting late call up. Must have been something wrong there. Double to Will Craig. Look, I must admit I didn't watch it. There's been so much shit going on with Galvin and whatever else that I just didn't find the time. I'll talk about it later on. But disappointing to lose that game, given they had a similar win-loss record to us. But as I tweeted on the weekend, the Lisa Fiaola side is into the third week of the finals against the Central Coast Roosters. They're playing at the Oaks, which is my neck of the woods. So if anybody around the Wallandilly or Camden/Campbelltown areas is doing nothing, go and watch those games. Hopefully the girls can crack a maiden grand final berth. Unfortunately, the Tasha Gale side lost to the Sydney Roosters Indigenous Academy 22 to 16, so their season sadly ends. But nonetheless, let's get behind the Fiaola girls, and good luck to the rest of our Pathways teams and our first grade team this weekend. Anything else, Mac?
Notable in the Jersey flag side, there is an empty spot at number 4. Is that Marcassini by any chance?
I doubt it.
And
I doubt.
and number 5 in New South Wales Cup is also empty.
That's Christian Mapapalangi.
Did he get named?
He's making his debut this week, yeah.
There's got to be there's got to be like a thing that causes the names not to appear when they put the team lists in though, and it's usually that the player's not attached to the club yet.
Yeah, I've actually got news for you. Xavier Tuaiafinga
It's him.
is debuting.
There you go. So he has played flag before. He played last year.
Yeah.
But there you go.
No Christian Torpower Moores again.
Yeah.
So there must be an issue there.
All right, that's good because he's a good young
Archie
player.
remains.
He's a good young player. Like he's somebody to watch. I think that he has first grade potential. I think. Savannah must be injured. Haven't seen him named anywhere.
Yes, believe he's picked something up, which really hurts. But the club's not. I mean, look, lower grade stuff. It's hard with the injury sorts of things. But look, Flegg play the Sharks this week, who sit.
They're going all right. They're 5th.
They're 5th. We're 7th. We're 3-1-3. They're 5-2. Okay, there's a bit of a gulf. So tough game for those boys, but hopefully we can see a win, and our Pathways boys can have a good crack. Anything else before we wrap up?
Nah, shitty week. Hopefully the boys surprise me and pick up a W. I if I could say one thing to leave everybody with, it'd be just, I don't know, man. Social media is parasitic, and the NRL media have somehow become experts at weaponizing it, almost as good as political reporters. So just focus on us. Just listen to West Tigers faithful. We've got your back. Fuck all those journos. We'll tell you the truth. West Tigers faithful.
Ciao.
The old song has to start playing now. Here we go.